15 royal members with hereditary mutations, unveiling the extraordinary. Once upon a time, in a distant kingdom, the nobility bore the burden of their prestigious lineage. The royal houses believed in preserving their purity and heritage through intermarriage, ensuring the perpetuation of their noble bloodline. Little did they know that the consequence of this endogamy would be the emergence of genetic mutations. These mutations, inherited through generations, exacerbated their health issues, ultimately leading to the downfall of an entire monarchy, as was the case with the Habsburgs of the Spanish Empire. Today, we delve into the captivating stories of 15 royal members who bore the weight of these hereditary mutations. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to stay updated with our latest revelations. Number 1. Tutankhamun. While you may have expected us to dive straight into European royalty, what better way to explore hereditary mutations than by delving into the intriguing story of Tutankhamun and his family? Not only were they considered royalty, but they were also revered as gods. Contrary to popular belief perpetuated by movies, Tutankhamun was far from the epitome of a robust, handsome man. The consequences of intermarriage within the royal family, as it was customary for pharaohs to marry their sisters, had a devastating impact on their genetic makeup. In-depth genetic studies have revealed a different image of the pharaoh, a man with a clubbed foot, feminine hips, cleft palate, and a receding chin. These traits, far from the stereotype of a masculine figure with strong, square jaws, showcased the real challenges Tutankhamun faced throughout his life. The discovery of approximately 2,000 decorated walking sticks in his tombs further highlights his physical limitations. Tutankhamun, the enigmatic pharaoh, stood at the center of a remarkable tale of royal mutations. Born into a lineage marred by the consequences of intermarriage, his physical attributes defied the conventional standards of regal beauty. However, behind his ailments lay a hidden strength that defied the constraints of his physical form. The pharaohs and their bloodline were not mere mortals, they were worshipped as living gods. Tutankhamun and his family received reverence and adulation beyond the realm of earthly kings. This divine status elevated them to a position of unmatched power and influence within ancient Egypt. Thanks to modern genetic research, we now have a glimpse into the true appearance of Tutankhamun. Contrary to popular misconceptions, he grappled with physical challenges that shaped his unique image. His clubbed foot, along with other physical traits, demonstrates the price paid for centuries of royal intermarriage. The obligation for pharaohs to marry their siblings plunged the royal bloodline into a genetic abyss. Tutankhamun's life serves as a testament to the perils of such practices. His feminine hips, cleft palate, and receding chin reveal the cumulative effects of generations of interbreeding within the family. Though burdened by his physical afflictions, Tutankhamun's reign marked a period of notable achievements and cultural advancements. Despite his challenges, he defied the limitations imposed by his genetic makeup, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of ancient history. The tale of Tutankhamun and his family sheds light on the complex interplay between royalty, hereditary mutations, and the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt. It serves as a powerful reminder that even amidst adversity, individuals can rise above their circumstances and leave an everlasting imprint on the sands of time. Stay tuned for more captivating stories of royal mutations as we unveil the fascinating journeys of other noble figures throughout history. Number 2, Queen Victoria of England. She was known as the grandmother of Europe, had her own share of trials and tribulations. Victoria suffered from hemophilia, although it remains uncertain whether it was inherited from her parents, neither of whom carried the gene, or if it was a de novo mutation that had appeared for the first time in her family. Legend has it that Victoria may have been conceived during an affair the Queen had, and the man involved had hemophilia. This implies that Victoria may not have been the legitimate child of the king, but we shall not delve into such scandalous territory. Victoria's hemophilia spread throughout the continent through her descendants, as 3 of her children inherited the condition, followed by her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Victoria was the granddaughter of George III, who also suffered from multiple ailments, due to the consequences of parental endogamy, but we will discuss him later on. Number 3, Alexei Tsarevich of Russia. Alexei is perhaps the most renowned case of hemophilia in the history of mankind. As the youngest son of the Russian Tsars, he was born with hemophilia, and had to endure constant pain throughout his short life. In his moments of crisis, he would beg his mother to let him die, believing that death would free him from the agony. Alexandra, convinced that the mystic monk Rasputin held the cure for her son's illness, relied on his treatments. However, Rasputin's efforts were in vain. Alexei had inherited hemophilia from his mother, who carried the gene. If we trace the royal genealogy, we find that Alexandra inherited the gene from Queen Victoria of England, who was her grandmother. Tragically, Alexei died at the age of 9 at the hands of the Bolsheviks, who executed the entire royal family. Number 4, Charles I of Spain and V of Germany. Charles I of Spain was already displaying the prominent Habsburg jaw in his genetic makeup. His distinctive jawline had become so notorious in society that the term Habsburg jaw was coined to refer to anyone born with such a deformity. Carlos I despised being seen eating due to the discomfort caused by this condition. He would seclude himself to consume his meals, avoiding the prying eyes of his subjects. In addition to his jaw deformity, Carlos I also suffered from epilepsy and gout, ailments that plagued him throughout his life. However, his most remarkable hereditary mutation was yet to come. Number 5, Charles II. We could say that of all the monarchies, the Habsburgs of Spain endured some of the harshest consequences of inheriting genetic mutations. Charles II was the living embodiment of the ailments one could suffer from due to his genetic heritage. Recent studies by geneticists have revealed that the coincidence in his chromosomes was remarkably high, reaching 25%, making it inevitable for him to be born with some form of illness due to the close blood relation of his parents. Charles II suffered from facial prognathism, the opposite of Tutankhamun's condition. His jaw was excessively protruded and misaligned, hindering his ability to chew food and causing constant drooling. He was nicknamed the Witch due to his multiple inherited diseases, although people of the time believed he had fallen victim to a malevolent enchantment. Apart from his pronounced prognathism, Charles II also suffered from renal tubular acidosis, which prevented the elimination of acids from his blood through urine. He was born so sickly that the French ambassador in Madrid boldly stated, "The prince seems quite weak, showing signs of degeneration, has phlegm on his cheeks, his head is covered in scabs, and his neck is so ugly it's frightening." Being born so ill and fragile, at the age of 4, he had to be breastfed by 14 different wet nurses since he was never taken outside to receive sunlight, due to the fear of contracting other diseases. Charles II also suffered from rickets due to a lack of vitamin D, which caused him to begin walking at the age of 8. He experienced epilepsy both in his childhood and later in life, and had an uncontrollable addiction to chocolate, which led to constant stomach pains and diarrhea. Charles II learned to read at the age of 10, as all these diseases also resulted in cognitive delay. If that wasn't enough, he also suffered from hydrocephalus, an excessive accumulation of fluid in the brain, which caused him terrible headaches. Moreover, Charles II had Klinefelter syndrome, a chromosomal disorder that rendered him sterile, with testicular dysfunction and low testosterone levels. It's incredible, but the famous War of Succession that Spain endured for nearly 13 years was precisely due to Charles II's inability to produce an heir to the throne, sparking battles between the Habsburgs and the Bourbons, with the latter ultimately seizing power and reigning to this day. Number 6, James I, who would later become James VI of Scotland, as the kingdoms were still separate, suffered from porphyria, the same illness that would later afflict George III. He experienced severe fevers, intense stomach pains, red urine, and mental issues. Additionally, he didn't start walking until the age of 5 due to his frailty. This disease was clearly inherited from his father, and he, in turn, passed it on to his son. Number 7, George III, the grandfather of Queen Victoria, was not exempt from genetic illnesses. George III suffered from porphyria, a series of disorders caused by the buildup of certain chemicals related to red blood cell proteins. He experienced severe and irrational bouts where he completely lost his sanity, displaying symptoms of schizophrenia. These episodes raised doubts about his ability to rule, leading to disastrous consequences for the Kingdom of Great Britain. In fact, the most significant and impactful event during his reign occurred when, due to his incapacity to govern, the vast colonies that are now known as the United States of America were lost. Number 8, Henry VIII, known for his beheading of his wives and closest collaborators, was not only a captivating figure but also suffered from multiple ailments due to inherited genetics. Henry VIII was afflicted with the MacLeod syndrome, which rendered him unable to produce heirs to the throne. Starting at the age of 30, this disease caused by his inherited condition made him increasingly irascible, leading to bouts of madness and ordering executions left and right. His obesity and muscular deterioration made movement difficult for him. Unfortunately, over time, his cognitive decline progressed into dementia. Number 9, Richard III, the last king of the House of York and the one who lost the battle, paving the way for the Tudor dynasty in England, suffered from a debilitating scoliosis from a young age, which caused him to be shorter than average and have a hunched shoulder. He also had respiratory problems. In 2012, Richard III's remains were discovered in a car park in Leicester, where a church once stood, leading to speculation that it could be his final resting place. It is interesting to note that William Shakespeare portrays him as an ugly, tyrannical figure with a thirst for blood in his plays. Number 10, Mary I of Scotland, also known as Mary, Queen of Scots, inherited the Marfan syndrome, a condition that affects the heart, blood vessels, eyes, and skeleton. However, it should be noted that there is no historical evidence to support this claim. The portrayal of her extremities being excessively long and her fingers and toes resembling those of an octopus is purely fictional, and not based on historical accuracy. Mary I of Scotland's life was filled with political intrigue, religious conflicts, and her eventual execution, making her a fascinating figure in history. Number 11, Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg, was also marked by the hereditary mutation from her grandmother, Victoria I. By inheriting the gene and marrying Alfonso VIII of Spain, she carried the hemophilia gene into the Spanish royal family. This became a constant reproach from her mother-in-law, Queen Maria Cristina of Habsburg-Lorraine, and later from her own husband, who began to lose interest in her and engage in constant infidelity. These affairs were often followed by lavish gifts of expensive jewelry as Alfonso sought forgiveness from Victoria Eugenie. The tumultuous personal life of Victoria Eugenie adds an intriguing aspect to her position as Queen of Spain during a transformative period in the country's history. Number 12, Emperor Claudius, in the Roman Empire, was no stranger to the customs of incestuous marriages, similar to the pharaohs of Egypt. Claudius himself suffered from a stammer and Tourette's syndrome, which were likely inherited from previous incestuous unions. Considered by his own family as a fool and incapable of ruling the empire, Claudius surprised everyone when he assumed power after the assassination of his nephew and regent, Emperor Caligula. Among Claudius' many marriages was one with his niece Agrippina Minor, the mother of Nero, who is said to have orchestrated his assassination in order to secure the throne for her son, and she succeeded. Claudius' ascent to power, despite his perceived shortcomings, adds a fascinating twist to the complex dynamics of the Roman Empire during his reign. Number 13, Infanta Margherita Theresa of Austria, sister of Charles II, also suffered from the diseases caused by inherited mutations. As the daughter of an uncle-niece marriage, Margherita, known as the protagonist of Velázquez's painting Las Meninas, also experienced symptoms of Albright syndrome, a condition that caused her eyes to appear bulging and disproportionate. Early onset of menstruation was a childhood condition for her due to constant hormonal changes, and she had café au lait spots present on her body, with the most prominent one located on her right temple. Keeping with the family tradition, Margherita Theresa also married an uncle, Leopold I of Austria, to whom she had been promised since the age of 9. The intertwining of genetics and familial ties in her life adds intrigue to the story of this royal figure. Number 14, Maria I of Portugal, initially known as the Pious, ended up being called Maria the Mad, as she completely lost her sanity over the years. It seems that porphyria took hold of her, similar to what happened to George III. In fact, the same physician who treated George III was made available to Maria, but unfortunately, there were no improvements in any aspect. She would talk to herself and see distorted images of reality. She claimed that her father was burning in hell. Eventually, her own people deemed her unfit to rule. Maria I also married an uncle, continuing the cycle of inherited mutations in her family. The story of Maria's descent into madness and the consequences it had on her reign adds a captivating twist to her historical narrative. Number 15, Isabella, also known as Empress of Austria and Queen of Hungary, did indeed come from the union of Maximilian and Ludovica, who were cousins. She struggled with deep sadness, eating disorders, and an intense obsession with never weighing more than 50 kilograms, which today is recognized as anorexia, a psychological disorder exacerbated by social rejection. However, it was just the tip of the iceberg regarding her afflictions, which she likely inherited from her parents. Isabella also battled bulimia, body dysmorphia, and depression. Fortunately, the practice of endogamy within the royal circles was gradually fading away by 1750, although noble intermarriages continued. This shift likely contributed to the preservation of the royal lineages that still hold their titles today. On a related note, we cannot overlook the renowned Charles Darwin, whose scientific studies piqued his curiosity about the consequences of genetic deformities within his own offspring. Notably, Darwin's marriage to his first cousin resulted in fragile and sickly children. His scientific curiosity prompted him to investigate the effects of genetic inheritance, which could have greatly benefited the monarchies that practiced incestuous and familial relationships since the 15th century. Fortunately, this practice became less common by approximately 1750, but the legacy of hereditary mutations persisted. We hope you found this video informative. If you have anything to add, please share it with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video and share the link with your family and best friends, so they can also learn about the members of royalty who experienced hereditary mutations. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back soon with more curiosities from history.